But fortunately, there is a template if you want to write your own palettes. For example, you can use Substrate to configure palettes, and obviously I don't want to speak about in more details, like what is weight info. You know, what weight is doesn't matter to me on this step. I decide to opt out because the project is on pilot stage but not production. Please always do your own research and let yourself to drill down. Having have a lot of spending times on details, I will decide to pass through these sections. When you don't understand the part, please let your mind wander in Substrate before you learn Rust programming, and to have mind mapping of the framework. As I showed you, we had a function, we call it do something, and it's defined by two parameters like origin and substring, and then we have a raw result of a dispatch result, and dispatch is something about results of your function, and that's consequence of extrinsic calls. And after you make call it, you will see event in the section of chain info, and for example we call it user created by users template module palette, and after that we call it mix balance, and so on. Emitting an event is really important. When we want to write our palette, we must know how to use different function of event and frame systems, and clearly you need mind mapping or to put hour on your Substrate documentation, and after that you will know how to use events and in a section of palettes, and at the end you will find it in runtime section. Let me show you my users library, and as you can see we have a register function here. You need to define a user info trait. Obviously we need the enum for event, and based on Ankel generic type of config trait. And after that I can show you section of runtime. There is a good point here when we face with SP or SC libraries. You know, when we speak about SP, it means Substrate client, and if you face it with SP, it means Substrate primitives. So both of them are really important, and you better have a look at documentation if you want to manipulate your runtime. And in the section of runtime, we need to implement palette. For example, I can implement palette of template here to define runtime event and waiting for. And then for my users, I also can define this line. And then to implementing palette mix, I need to specify balances and some type here. Obviously, when we want to create a new account, before it we must define a balance for the account, and in the macro of construct runtime we need to set our palettes here. And as you can see, I have 3 palettes that I have written, and then you have a good opportunity if you want to add benchmarking. And in this pilot project I haven't used a benchmark, but if you work on a production project, maybe you will fulfill the function and then use feature of benchmarking for your project. In the section of node, you don't need to change anything, but if you need to add if you need to add the palette contract, you need to add the dependency here. And in this project, I haven't used palette contract here, and I prefer to use it in another project. And as suggested, we use a template to deal with substrates. We need to create five, and for any palettes, we need the benchmarking file, lib.rs file, and marks for testing, and also weights. Let me show you how we can have some palettes. After you created your palettes, you need to add the new dependency here in the main file of cargo.yml here. And in the section of, for example, template palette or my user, you can glimpse at dependencies like section of features, dev dependencies, and also runtime dependencies, and so on. Let me talk as a side note. Why I told you we need to have a good system or a strong infrastructure, because after you run cargo release command, it really takes time to generate and release your work here. It's really heavily processed. Rust compiler will need more time to generate your final release file. And after that, you can use a node template in your command to run node 1 or node 2. I suggest you to clone sub projects, and you will see how much you have more control in your code and in dependencies. This pattern to address GitHub address is good for sample projects, but I don't suggest it for pilot or production states. Let me move forward to catch up our plan. I'm gonna to use substrate contracts. I prefer to use online user interface, but before that I need to run release file. After you will have run your node to deploy a smart contract, let me turn to the user interface. In this section, you can add your smart contract or WebAssembly file. I try